Welcome to Unashamed Unafraid, a show unashamed about sexual addiction recovery and unafraid of coming into Christ for healing, where we share real recovery stories, learn from experts, and share resources that actually work. So join us in being unashamed and unafraid.
Welcome to another story episode of Unashamed Unafraid. I'm here with Chris, the Hulk of Hope. Chris, how are you?
Freaking awesome.
Good.
As always. Well, not always. I'm not always awesome.
Yeah, that would be a post. Not always awesome.
But a good majority of the time I am.
Right. So why don't we tell stories on this podcast, Chris?
Provides hope, man. I mean, that's the whole reason why I decided to share my story on a world level, is just to, if I can provide hope for just one person, then I've done what God invited me into. He's asked me to share that story with other people because he knew that me being able to share my story would provide hope for somebody. And like James, or not James, but what Stephen says is, you know, people don't people don't change because they hit rock bottom. They change when there's hope for a better life.
Yeah.
And that's why we share stories, so that we can hear what worked for them, what didn't work for them, so we can hear what is this hope thing. So it just takes a little bit of hope to start making that change, instead of just thinking, I will never be able to stop this addiction. So many of us have been there and lived there for a long time.
Stories are about hope. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we got another story to bring you some hope. John, welcome to the show. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. Thanks, guys.
So, John, we've had some fun technical difficulties. We tried to record last time. We tried to record the time before, and it didn't work out. And
Third time's the charm, baby.
Third time is the charm.
I sure hope so.
Yeah. So, John, we're excited to hear your story, man. Honestly, I think you kind of know the drill. Where do you want to start with this one?
Well, since we're talking about story, John, why are you sharing your story?
That same reason of hope. You know, I thought for so long I was alone. And since I've found recovery and found others and found that strength and hope, I just want people to know they're not alone and that there's hope.
Yeah.
So walk us through, start at the beginning, man.
Yeah.
Convince us that there's hope.
There is indeed. But I didn't feel like it for many years. You know, I started with pornography and masturbation when I was around 12 years old. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I grew up a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Utah, and I knew it was bad. Some kids at school had some pictures, and they showed me, but that lust just took hold. And man, I remember wanting to see him again, but knowing it was bad. And then a few years after that, I started with masturbation, and the shame just rolled in. But with the shame, I couldn't stop, but I was too scared to go talk to anybody. So I fought it alone, and went for about 3 years on my own. And of course, trying to stop, maybe, make it a week, if that. I wouldn't take the sacrament at church, try to, say I'm trying, but I'd always go back to my addiction. And finally, my ecclesiastical leader, my bishop, who was my dad at the time, which was another reason it was so hard to come forward, is I finally told him. And it was amazing, because it was an amazing weight off of me. And I'm like, okay. But of course, addiction wasn't even talked about back then. And so he's like, okay, don't do it. I say, oh, well, that easy. I'll just stop.
Well, we just might as well tell everybody, hey, just stop.
I wish I'd thought of that sooner.
Just stop it. Don't do it.
And
that would be awesome.
That would be great. And I was able to white knuckle it with pornography and masturbation, but I was still very much full of lust. And go ahead.
Sorry, John, there's something key here I really want to touch on and get from you, which is like, obviously back then, like, people weren't really talking about addiction, and you probably didn't have the maturity and perspective that you have now on what was going in your life that was driving you so hard towards lust. So what was the wounding and the pain and the dysfunctional dynamics in your life that was causing you to chase this so hard?
Yeah, I very much low self-worth. My self-esteem was very low. Especially when I started with pornography. Masturbation was middle school, which can be a really crappy time for anybody, but it was really tough for me. Had only a few friends, and then didn't have, just felt alone all the time. And self-worth, just seeking validation, and then just, yeah, wanted to escape my life. Didn't like who I was, and or what I was doing. Wanted to be different, and
So what was creating that low self-worth, man? Like, was it because were you being bullied? So that it was like coming
not
from that? Was it coming from parents or siblings?
not so much being bullied, always some, but it was just comparing myself to others. I thought, man, that kid's, he's cooler, he's taller, he's faster, he's stronger. I mean, comparing myself and always coming up short.
Yeah, and comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, and it was very much so, and definitely there was some comparisons that happened with, I had an older brother, and there's one or two times that it happened in my life that I remember distinctly. Like, oh, why aren't you more like your brother? And knowing I could never be like him, but so those were very, very much at the root of seeking to escape. And
So porn comes along.
yeah, and it's numb out, and I don't have to feel anything for a few minutes, and then of course after you're acting out the shame, I'm like, oh, I feel really bad, but then I'll go back to my addiction because I feel good for a few minutes. So a real rough cycle.
And who was God to you during this time?
Very much an authoritarian figure who I could only go to when I was worthy. So I had to be perfect before I could talk with him, before he would be there for me. I had to figure it out on my own before I could go to him.
And why did you decide he was that way?
Good question. Just, I think some of it was a little, placing my own father's face in God, and not that my dad was over, he's a very good man, but never felt that close with him growing up, and felt like I had to, live up to a standard, and definitely. Just as I learned about God, just like, he wanted me to be good. And so if I'm not being good, if I'm not following his commandments, if I'm acting out using porn and masturbation, then he doesn't want, he did, yeah, that's what I felt. He doesn't want me. I need to change before I can come to him.
Hey, you're not worthy enough to talk to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's painful, dude.
It was,
I'm comparing myself to my brothers. I'm insecure at school. I'm going through a teenage phase. I feel like God's unapproachable and distant from me. So I have this problem, and who do I go to?
Absolutely no one. I hide it and keep it to myself, and it just, it drives me further into isolation, and it was a very, very tough time, very dark time. And, when I was finally took the courage to share with my dad, and it was crazy, just bringing the light took away some of that shame. And he was very loving about it. He didn't look down on me for it. But, he just encouraged me to to quit. And so I thought, well, that's what I just should do, even though that's what I've been trying this whole time. And bringing that to light helped me quite a bit for a few years. And then another thing that happened, and I hadn't really looked at this before, and but I got a good group of friends in high school, and I was 17 when I finally told my dad, and had some amazing friends that were a great support, and so I didn't feel so alone.
Did you tell them what you
No.
were struggling with, or they
Hell
were just
no.
there just because they were buddies and they were just around you?
Yeah, just good guys, good influences. But
Okay.
yes, never, not that close, but it was still a good support, and just having that that relationship and that connection helped out a lot, and I was able to white knuckle it until I could get on a mission, and I served a mission for our church, and
Where'd you go?
I went to Guatemala City North. It was an amazing mission, and
Sick.
yeah, and I do believe serving and trying to connect with God, and feeling, I felt, because I wasn't acting out, I felt closer to God. I felt like I could approach Him now. And I was able to stay clean for 2 years on my mission. I was able to make it through. And that felt amazing. And then I came home, and I'm not actively, serving anymore. And so it did get harder. And I acted out twice. But both times I was able to go talk with my ecclesiastical leaders. And again, still nothing mentioned about, hey, this could be an addiction. You need more help than what we have. It was just, okay, yeah, thanks, for admitting it and confessing, and, go ahead and don't do it anymore. And then I started dating, and it's something I hadn't really done much in high school. And so as I started dating, I did get involved with a girl, and started getting pretty serious. And the kissing and started making out. And so I wasn't using pornography at the time, but I was using her, and feel horrible about it now.
Describe that to us. I'm not talking about like, really raunchy details. I'm
Step by step. Here, this is
No,
what
I
we
wanna
were
know,
doing.
like, what do you mean when you're like, yeah, bro, I was using her in the same way I used pornography? There's something there.
Yeah, very much so. I was using her to escape, and as she was a great person, but it was all lust. It was for me to escape. It wasn't so much a connection with, connecting with her on an emotional scale. It was all just, yeah, I'll go with her tonight because I want to kind of escape, and we'll make out, and then we went on to touch each other inappropriately. And so it was, again, just like using the pornography or masturbation, but I could use her, and felt horrible about it. I really do. And luckily, it would have led to premarital sex if I had stayed with her much longer. But luckily, I met and started dating my wife, and we got engaged, and we got married. And as we were engaged, I started to go back to pornography, and just barely starting to look at a few things, not getting into it daily or hardcore porn. But then, of course, the thought came to me, well, I'm about to get married, so I won't be using this anymore. It'll go away, right?
Our favorite
Says
lie on
nobody
the show.
ever.
Exactly.
Yeah, how well did it work out for you, John?
Oh, great, for a week.
You got a week of sobriety.
A week of sobriety, and then I was on the computer one night, and it started looking at pornography, and then I went right back into it, and just like I had done early in middle school into high school, and it became a daily thing, and pornography, masturbation. And I was just terrified. I'm like, I can't tell my wife. She'll be so mad, and she'll leave me, and I can't. I can stop. I've been told to before to stop. I can do this, and the shame just rolled in with it, and so the first 5 years of our marriage were just full of lies and deceit and betrayal for her, and she didn't know. She had no idea. That's one of the biggest regrets I have, is that I never gave her the choice. I didn't really think I had a problem before I was married, but definitely at the very beginning, I didn't give her the choice of staying or leaving. I held that in.
So why did that matter to you? I mean, looking back, you're saying like, I'm so sad that I never allowed her that choice. Why is that so important?
Because she deserves that. Every woman deserves that. I was trying to manipulate the situation for my outcome, and nobody deserves to be manipulated. Just taking away that freedom from her. And at this time, I know, especially looking back at the time, I thought, well, I can live this dual life and it's not affecting. But as I look back, it really was affecting who I was. The selfishness, the anger, the way I acted towards my wife. And as time went on, we had our first son, and my life was for me. It wasn't for my family. It was for me. And as I started with pornography, masturbation, but with time, it gradually got worse, where that wasn't enough. And I started contacting women on the internet. And then I heard about massage parlors, and like, oh, give that a try. And I went to one of those and was hooked on that. And then the next was prostitution, and started going to them as much as I could. Young guy with a young family, going to school, but I was stealing money from my family to pay for my addiction any way I could. And this went on, me going to massage parlors and prostitution, for probably close to a year. And then my wife found out. She found some emails that I'd sent to other women, and she confronted me. And of course, knowing, I'm like, man, I gotta. If she knows the whole truth, she's leaving. She's done. I don't want to lose her. So of course I lied, and said, no. So the worst I've done is I've gone to massage parlors. And furious, of course she was furious, and but she was willing to work with me. And so I go to a bishop and confess, pornography, masturbation, massage parlors. But when you tell half truths, there's still a huge lie there. And
man, Satan just holds on to you like crazy when you're doing that.
Oh, so much. And
John, can you just take a minute? Because there's I'm hearing just like, I see it in your eyes, like just the pain of what it was like to live in that kind of a lie. Can you just describe that to us in the audience?
The worst feeling I've ever had. Just first is the feeling of failing the ones I love the most, and just seeing that hurt in them and knowing I caused it. It just, just wounds me deeply.
And how did you feel about yourself at that time?
Oh, I hated myself. And yet, as much as I hated it and hated myself, I couldn't stop as much as I wanted to, because I truly do love my wife and did love my wife and my kids. And, you know, and every time I'm like, okay, you know, like for my first son, I'm like, I'm going to stay clean so I can and be a good dad for him. And that would last for a little while. Maybe a week, maybe 2, but that's it.
And so after everything comes out, are you going back to massage parlors and prostitution, or are you just going back to pornography? What does that look like for you?
So, back to everything, because it was, you know, it still had a great hold on me because I wasn't willing to let go of everything. And that time, addiction was mentioned to me, and I started going to some ARP meetings. And
Addiction Recovery Program meetings. It's the 12-step program for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yep. And, but yeah, again, still holding on to my addiction. There was no progress. There was nothing. And so, yeah, my wife thinks I'm doing better. It's all a lie. And, of course, every time's the last time, too, for me. Like, every time I act out, I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to go forward. And it wasn't. And finished up with school. I thought, well, let's move, and I'll move to a different area where I haven't acted out. It'll be great. Fresh start. Well, problem was I packed up my addiction and brought it with me. And with
we can't run from our problems, man. They're still right there.
That is such a good way to say that.
I tried, but yeah, brought it right with me, and within a month I was back to acting out. And my wife had left and for a visit to her family and come home. She had actually gone. Her mother had passed away, and she came home. And of course, while they were gone, I had acted out, gone to see a prostitute, gone to a massage parlor, and a strip club. And she came home and she was inspired to find the receipt to the strip club. And this is the sadness of my addiction. I went to this club and you had to buy a drink to get in. And I'm like, well, I'll buy a beer, but I won't drink it because that's wrong. And I'm sitting there in this club. I'm like, what a freaking moron you are. Like, word of wisdom, but you know, definitely not. But yeah, I'll law of chastity. Yeah, that's not so bad. Just that's how insane I was. You know how irrational I was.
When I always like to point out that that's what happens in the addiction, right? Where when you line it up next to cocaine, it actually shrinks the frontal lobe, right? And so that's your logical thinking. And so your logical thinking goes out the window. So the logical thinking around that you're just talking about, totally gone. Like from a person that's not living in addiction, they'd see that and be like, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah.
But then as an addict, you're just like, yeah, this makes sense to me. This totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like I talk to guys all the time. They're like, yeah, I don't watch rated R movies. Oh, but you watch porn.
It's not rated
I get
R.
it. That's totally cool. And they're like, well, yeah.
It's a little more than rated R.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So totally get it, man.
Yeah.
That frontal lobe shrinks and logical thinking goes out the window, man.
100%.
So where did you go from there?
So my wife.
Oh, so she finds the ticket, right?
She finds the ticket and she's like, I'm done. And I'm like, well, I need to tell you everything. And I unload on her. I tell her everything, just dump it all on her that night. And she's like, well, hell yeah, I'm gone. She called her brother and sister, and they came and picked her up and took her and my 2 kids back to California. And I just lost and crushed and shamed and guilt and hating myself. But wanting to change, and I thought I can change, and I've got to, because I don't want to lose my family. And so I go to my bishop, brand new ward. First time I met him, well, guess what? I'm an addict. I've cheated on my wife multiple times and got excommunicated from my church, and my family's gone. Bless my parents. They were 5 hours away. They drove through the middle of the night to be with me. And my siblings came and rallied around me, and I felt lots of love and support. But still, hating myself for what I just done to my wife and kids. And, but yeah, thought, yep, I'm going forward. I'm going to change. I kept going with the ARP, the addiction recovery program, and started seeing a counselor briefly, and thought, I can go forward. I still just felt so horrible. My wife was very upset and bitter, and talking about divorce, and anyway, I was able to stay clean. Thought I was starting a new chapter, and my wife, through the grace of God, thought would give me another chance. So after about 3 months, she came back, and we'd moved to Montana, so we moved back to Utah. We're living with my parents for a little while, and trying to just figure things out. And I'm attending ARP meetings, and we're going to marriage counseling, and yeah, thought we're going forward. And about 6 months, and I'd been doing pretty good. But then I'm not doing everything. I'm not doing everything I could. Wasn't working on a connection with God. My recovery was just stop acting out. And
So how did you, at the height of your addiction, how did you see God?
Like someone I couldn't even talk to or look at, or he would even.
So still, just from a kid, right?
Yeah.
Just someone you got to figure it out first.
Yeah, I gotta change before I can come to him. And I definitely felt God in those times when my wife was gone and my family was gone. Just I poured my heart out to him, and I felt him then. But it's because I wasn't acting out. I'm on my way back. That's when I could come to him, and started back into looking at porn, and then I got a different job. We move again, and I act out again. And my wife catches me. Never had the guts to come to her, and she catches it again.
Acting out with?
Massage parlor.
Got it.
And she's such a saint. She willing to work with me, and let's go forward. And anyway, go to a bishop. I'm excommunicated still, and so still continuing to work. And this time I find another program, which is ARP support, which was working the 12 steps with a sponsor. So a little different, using the same steps as the ARP from the church, but kind of a separate offshoot of it. But it was good. And I went through and I did the 12 steps, and I thought, man, this it really felt good, and started sponsoring myself. But the thought I had then was, well, I'm cured. Look, I'm doing good, and things were going well.
Okay, so I've never heard that term, sponsoring yourself.
Oh no, I was.
How does that?
Not sponsoring myself. I became a sponsor as well.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you sponsor yourself? You're like looking in the mirror and having a conversation with yourself.
Hey.
You're doing a great job.
And at this point where you said, hey, like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm in a good spot. I mean, what did sobriety look like? What did recovery look like for you at that point?
I would say it was only sobriety. I was sober for 3 years. I worked my way back to be a member of the church again. Was rebaptized, was able to attend the temple, receive my blessings, attend the temple, and things were good. We'd moved clear across the country. We moved up to Washington, and it was a fresh start, and it was great, and started serving.
And how were things with your wife at that time?
They were a lot better. I really thought, again, like I said, I thought, man, I've made it. And life was getting busy, with church, with work, and so I'm like, well, I don't really have time to go to ARP meetings every week or sponsor anymore. And so I kind of left the ARP support program and was just on my own, and thought I was doing okay. And again, pride started coming back, and I'm like, man, that looks like a really cool show. There's only one scene of sex, but I can handle that. Everybody else can watch it. I can do it too now. And, watch that. And like, wow, And that stuck with me.
So you start negotiating with the addiction.
Exactly right. I start negotiating, and every little step I took toward, I mean, it was a step towards my addiction again. And I would set boundaries, like, oh, well, okay, I'll just watch these movies, you know, a little sex in it, it's not a big deal, or nudity, but definitely won't look at porn again. And then back to porn, you know, it's, oh, wow, that, you know, again, the lust started working up, and not doing anything to be actively engaged in my recovery. I went right back to it. And first it was just porn. Okay, but yeah, I definitely won't masturbate again. Then I crossed that line. Well,
And did you and your wife have anything like set in stone of like, hey, we need to have like a 24-hour rule. If I act out, I got to let you know within 24 hours. You didn't have anything like that.
We didn't have anything like that. It was a lot of, you know, we had passwords on the computer, you know, TV and stuff. But as I, you know, I'd been 3 years, so, and with the pride, I'm like, I feel like a little kid asking for permission to get on the computer. And so I said, hey, you know, I've been doing really good. Will you let me, you know, have the password? And she's like, well, you have been, so here, you know, go ahead. And with that, just opened the world back open to me. And then I totally betrayed her trust in me on that. And so, yeah.
And I want to go back to that part right there. When you asked for the password, did you, in the back of your head, did you have an inkling of like, maybe this is going to be bad for me, or I'm actually asking it because I know it'll give me access, even though I've been really good? Or was that not even on your mind?
No, I think it was so I can do what I want. You know, it was very much, even though I was sober, I was still very much a selfish person and prideful. I'd been humbled, but I was forgetting about it. And so it was, I just want to do what I want and be, you know, be my own person and kind of be like other people and be, you know, be able to browse the internet and, you know, look at Facebook and all those, you know, anything I want and not, you know, what's the right word? Be normal. You know, how some people can look at it and like, oh yeah, that's a really pretty woman, and then they go on. Instead of me, oh, that's a pretty woman. Well, what else can I find on her? Or what I need to find some other images. And so, yeah, and I think actually too, there was a little bit of like, this way I can do anything on the computer. And so, yeah, down that really slippery slope of, I kept, like I said, I kept having a boundary. I'm like, yeah, I won't masturbate again. Then I did that. Well, I definitely won't go to a massage parlor again, you know, and I'll look at all the ads and you know, I'll look things up online. Well, that led right back to a massage parlor. Well, I won't go to a prostitute again. Right back. And then I was like, crap, I can't tell anybody because I'm going to lose everything again. I'm going to be excommunicated again. My wife will leave. I will lose my kids. I'm like, I just got all the way back. And I was just so ashamed of what I'd done and just overwhelmed with guilt. And I'm like, I can't go for help because I don't want to admit that I failed again. And so
I'm going to do this on my own.
Yep.
Continue to do it on my own.
I'll stop. And every time, you know, go see a woman, go look at pornography, masturbate, I'll stop. This is the last time. And it wouldn't be. And right back to it. And went on for another 3 years. And I even told myself one time, like, you know, I know I can't, I know I'm not a good person, but I just can't admit it. I'll go to hell. I don't care, but I can't admit to these people that I need help. Just that pride and the shame of having fallen so far. And I'd even thought, well, if I share my story with some, and I'd shared it with some people at church, and it was a lie because yes, I had found some sobriety, but then I'd lost. Then I'd turned right back to my addiction, and so it was. I was just living that dual life, that lie, and again, right back to the selfishness and the pride and anger, and I was a jerk. And we'd, it was 19 months ago. I went to visit my family, and just by myself, and on the way home, stopped to get a massage. And then I showed up back with my wife and kids, and they were happy to see me, and I was happy to be home. And again, I never had the guts to talk with my wife about it. She found out again. And she said, "I told you I'd be done." I said, "I know, and I'm sorry. And I'm right back in my addiction." And she said, "I'm done." And I slept on the couch that night and moved out the next day. And at this point, my kids are 16 and 14 years old. And they're wondering why, Mom and Dad why is Dad leaving? Why are we getting a divorce? And I had to go to my bishop. I was serving in the bishopric at the time, unworthily, obviously. And so I was released from that and excommunicated again. And was in a horrible place. Just hated myself. Hated what I'd done. And knowing that I just hurt the three most important people in the world to me. This time I told my kids, I had to tell them why, that it wasn't their mom's fault at all, that it was all me.
And did you tell them why, or just that you had made some mistakes? What did that look like for you?
I told them why. I told each of them separately, but I told them that I had cheated on their mother, that I was a sex addict, and
what was their response like, man?
It was the most amazing response. It helped me come to know God more, because I just destroyed our family, my marriage, and that they loved me. They told me how much they loved me. They hugged me. They gave me a kiss and said, "We're here for you, Dad." I was expecting anger, and I'm sure they've had that, but they showed me so much love. It just blew me away. And so I know I can change, at this time, and with the help of the bishop, I find a therapist, and as I'm talking to the therapist, he pointed me towards SAL. Sex Addicts Lifeline, and amazing program. And the first time I go to a meeting, and all I could do is go on Zoom meetings because I'm so far from everything, and I actually meet a guy who's acted out the same way I did and is working recovery. Had 2 years of sobriety and was working the program, and he became my sponsor, Michael, and just gave me hope. And then I talked to other guys who had 10 years and 5 years and some just months, but I saw these guys that were working and had hope. And then another friend tells me about this great podcast, Unashamed Unafraid, and I hear other people who are...
Hey, I've heard about that one. I heard it's a pretty good podcast.
Sometimes. No,
I heard the hosts are freaking dope.
They're decent.
Yeah, and just hearing these stories of hope, and so I start working and working on my connection with God, which that was what really made a difference. Coming to know that I have a Father in heaven who loves me no matter what. That even in the times I'm acting out, he was still loving me. And that I could go to him no matter what.
Yeah.
That helped me so much. And then finding connection with brothers who knew my pain, who knew my struggle. That was unbelievable.
And they still loved you.
And they still loved me and wanted to be there for me. It blew me away. It's connections that I'd never had my entire life. And this whole time, we're working on our divorce papers. You know, my wife, still so kind. You know, very, very hurt in days where she was really angry, but so kind to me. Let me come have dinner with them and her and the kids. And, but, you know, it was over. She told me it was over. And, but just finding, and that hurt so much. I mean, there would be days that the pain was unbearable to know what I'd done to my wife and to my kids. But finding that hope, you know, because before, any time in my life when I was feeling so crappy, I kept it in. You know, we got to face this on my own. But being able to call up a guy and say, hey, man, I feel like shit and I need help. And just share all my insecurities and sadnesses. And he just loved me and say, hey, I'm here for you, man. And then being able to tell that to my Father in heaven. You know, you know, growing up, I've always been taught, you know, in prayers, say thee and thou, which is very respectful. But coming to know God, not only as my Father, but my best friend. And so, you know, as I pray now, I say you, just because it makes me feel that much more closer to him. Like,
That's how I pray too. Like a lot of time, most of the time I pray that way just because I feel it's more of a friendship and he's not going to turn me away or just not hear my prayer just because I don't pray to him with, you know, these and thous and stuff. All he wants is for us to just turn to him and say, I need some help. And I can't do this on my own, God.
yeah.
He's like, I'm here, man.
Exactly.
I'm ready for you.
He is. And it was so amazing. And that was such a turnaround for me. Something I never had my entire life. And just, that's when I found what recovery was about. I had a dear close friend who lives by me. He had gone through a divorce the year before, so I really reached out to him and told him my whole story. And, you know, just didn't sugarcoat anything. Like, this is who I am. And found that same love through him, Brian. And in fact, it was Brian who you know, been separated probably 8 months. He's like, hey, because I got him hooked on Unashamed Unafraid as well. And he's like, I keep hearing about boot camp. Let's go to boot camp. And so last May we went down to boot camp, and that was another turn for me.
Heck yeah, warriorheart.com or awarriorheart.com.
Yeah.
Come to boot camp, folks.
It was, you know, and it was at boot camp that I really found, because again, you know, I'm working recovery and I'm trying to change, but I'm desperately hoping for reconciliation with my wife, that we could get back together. But it was at boot camp I really found that I needed to let her go, to let my wife heal so that she could feel safe, so that she could have a future. And I came home from boot camp and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna let her know that I'm okay with a divorce. Like, I don't want it, but she needs it. That's what I'll do everything I can to help.
Yeah. So we just got a couple minutes left, man. And so 2 things real quick. What does sobriety look like for you? Are you still married? And there was another one, but we only have a few minutes left, so you got to talk fast.
Yeah. So I'm 19 months sober. I've been working recovery this whole time.
Heck yeah, man.
Just got rebaptized in January. Moved back in with my family in November, and we are still married.
Dope.
And by the grace of God and by the grace of my wife. And truly know that there is hope in recovery. The biggest things I could say is connection with God and connection with others. That's what
yeah.
has changed my life.
Awesome, man.
And just last question, what would you say to the guy who's stuck where you were 19 months ago and is looking for hope?
That you can find it. Reach outside yourself. Don't be ashamed. Just share. Find somebody you can trust and share and reach out. There's so many of us out there. And there's hope.
Don't have to do it alone.
Never. Impossible to do it alone.
John, thanks for being on. Real honor to finally get to interview you. This was awesome.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely awesome. Do you have a song that represents your recovery or had a big impact on you?
I do. And it's Kind by Corey Asbury.
Kind by Corey Asbury. Thanks for watching the Unashamed Unafraid podcast. You can find more content on social media at Unashamed Unafraid. Like and subscribe on YouTube so we can get this message out to more people. Find us wherever you get your podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. And if this was helpful to you, head over to our website, unashamedunafraid.com, and become an outsider. Monthly contributions are how we push our message forward. And until next time, continue to live unashamed. Here is Kind by Corey Asbury.